What's up, everybody? I'm back, and today I kind of want to talk about what we heard just recently about the Kurt Busch situation. As you guys know, he has been out since Pocono. He suffered a concussion during qualifying for the Pocono race, and he has been out ever since. Ty Gibbs has been filling in the 45 car since that has happened. And it's been pretty consistent delays. Kurt Busch has been delaying a week or two at a time, and Richmond, Michigan, and the Glen, and he said the Glen and Daytona he was gone. Now he says he's going to be out to the start of the playoffs, which start next week at Darlington. Also, his medical waiver is being, which because he's missing the start of the playoffs, the medical waiver is being foregone, I think it is what the word is, and he is going to be not in the playoffs at this time, even though he got the win and he was locked in with the medical waiver. Now he's not because they waived it. And so I guess thoughts about that. We will talk about this all probably in the next episode of the Talking NASCAR podcast. This week's episode is going to be talking about Watkins Glen and stuff. We recorded it before all this happened. Next week, so we'll definitely touch on Kurt Busch, but again, as we have been for a long time. But so that would be his portion is going to be a little outdated. But what does this mean? Well, this situation about Kurt Busch kind of reminds me about what happened with Dale Jr. back in 2016. He got a concussion. He got his concussion a little early in the season, and he didn't have the win that locked him into the playoffs. So he made a little quicker of a decision. He's like, he was a little, nearing. He already had 3 concussions before, or 2 concussions and a major injury otherwise beforehand. So he called the season pretty early and let Alex Bowman and Jeff Gordon split the ride for experience, and Jeff Gordon get legacy riding and stuff like that. So I think at this point, Kurt Busch is out of contention for the championship. And, you don't want to risk any further injury. I think what he should do at this point is just call it a season. Like, he's been delaying races now for weeks on end. Pocono was a long time ago. If he's not going to be better by now, chances are he's not going to be better for a while. So just, call it a season. Let Ty Gibbs keep running the 45. Get some experience, because chances are Ty Gibbs might get a cup ride next year. Get him some experience this year so he can go to a different team next year, or even get a spot 2311 next year. And let him get some experience and let him go and keep, going and see if what he can do in that kind of equipment. Now that he knows he might have the ride full year, he can develop more, stuff like that. Let Kurt rest, let Kurt get healthy so nothing happens and stuff like that with no real repercussions because he's already out of the playoffs kind of thing. However, I think this does spell a little bit more of a doom if he does choose to do that. I think if he announces, and he's not going to be out for the rest of the season, I think he might also announce his career is over and he's going to retire, and then maybe Ty Gibbs will take over in the 45 next year. That would be pretty crazy. I do think that Ty Gibbs is lined up to get a cup ride next year. Now, where? We don't know yet. But, however, why Kurt probably hasn't announced that he's retiring or that the season's over is maybe because they're working out contract negotiations with Ty Gibbs for next year. Saying, okay, well, Kurt's done. He's agreed to this. We want to put you in the car, negotiate how long yearly contracts and payment, stuff like that. Or if he wants to race, or he's trying to negotiate with a different team even. It could be the case as well. So, that could be a possibility, that he's, doing other negotiations, just figuring out, and they don't want to make an official announcement or really make anything to jump to too many conclusions before they have the next steps aligned. That could also be the case here. We don't know yet. Personally, I like Kurt Busch. He's had a wild career. He's been in the Cup full-time since 2001. Lots of different things have happened to him since. I mean, he was the Jack Roush incident in 2005, going to James Finch in 2012, the anger issues, and then him calming down, the assault allegations in 2015. He gets through that. He wins the 04 championship. He also won the 2017 Daytona 500, and now he's racing 2311, and he raced with Ganassi. He's been so many awesome different teams, done so many different things, and now it would suck for him to call it a career, but he hasn't had a long career. I think he has a pretty good lock for the Hall of Fame. So I could see him he will get into the Hall of Fame for sure. However, is it over yet? I think he's still pretty competitive. We've seen him get wins every year now for quite a while. He won last year. Last win was for Ganassi last year. He won the year before. Upset win, playoffs. And in 2019, he got a good win, which was Ganassi, and he got a win this year with the 45 car. First legitimate win for 23-11, which is pretty cool. That was pretty nice. And then, so I would hate to see Kurt go. But this plays a lot like the Dale Jr. situation. He just might be done. The injury might just be too severe. He's too old. He has too many other things to worry about. Too many other things to care about getting back in the car and risking a bigger injury or the same injury and causing more repercussions. We don't quite know. So that was just mean for Ty Gibbs. Well, if Kurt Busch does retire, I do think Ty Gibbs would get the 45. However, if Kurt Busch does come back and they still want to promote Ty Gibbs to a new ride, I could see him going into 23-11 as a third team. We already know that really is a fourth team because Tyler Reddick's going to go to 23-11 next year as well. And so so we're going to get him there. Ty Gibbs can easily take Kyle Busch's ride in the 18 because, he most likely ain't coming back to Joe Gibbs. I think it's pretty clear right now he's not coming back to Joe Gibbs. So he could get the 18. He could get a different ride, and they could open up another chartered for another team in the Toyota camp as well. I think it's pretty clear he is going to drive a Toyota next year. He does race for Kyle Busch Motorsports right now in the Xfinity Series. I think Gibbs he hasn't been too impressive in his few races in Cup so far. I think he's definitely been pretty solid given the circumstances, and I do think that will translate to a pretty solid Cup career. This is a good development for him, not rushing him up next year, giving him a little bit of time to develop and stuff like that. There's always every cloud's got a silver lining, you know what I'm saying? Now, more importantly, what does this mean for the playoff implications? Because Kurt is out of the playoffs, meaning only 14 drivers are locked in the playoffs instead of 16 spots. So now Blaney and Truex are good on points. However, if a new winner comes in, one of them is going to be knocked out. So I do think that Truex like almost 200 points to the good, Blaine's like 230 to the good or whatever, 220. So they're both good on points. The only reason they don't get in is because of a new winner, which probably wouldn't be that big of a case anywhere except Daytona. And of course, they're going to Daytona. There's a lot of drivers that could easily steal this one. Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace, Corey LaJoie, even Michael McDowell, Christopher Buescher, any of them could steal this last spot. And if say Blaney still has a good run but doesn't win, Truex he get knocked out or Blaney wrecks, they're not that far apart. So Blaney could wreck or have a bad run, Truex have a good run. Truex gets in that last spot instead of Blaney. So NASCAR kind of probably flipping out right now because their main storylines going into Daytona are pretty much gone, barring a new winner and barring a big wreck or whatever. At least they still have a little bit to talk about, but not a whole lot. So that's pretty interesting. But we'll just have to see what happens. The whole Kurt Busch situation, Ty Gibbs. So what are your thoughts on this one? Going into this weekend, trying to get this out for you. But what are your thoughts on this situation? Do you think Kurt Busch is done for good? Do you think he's coming back? What's the situation for Ty Gibbs? And what's going to happen with the playoffs? I'd like to hear all thought about it. Comment section down below, and we will talk about the whole playoff bracket, 16 drivers, all 10 races. We'll analyze everything about the playoffs in the next episode of the Talking NASCAR podcast. Not this week's. This week's going to be talking about Watkins Glen, a big rumor I had about the Kyle Busch situation, and a few other things, including Texas and all that. Next week's episode, we're going to analyze the playoffs, every driver, every track, races, who we think is going to win, that kind of thing. We will also touch on Kurt Busch. Hopefully, get a few more updates before then, and maybe some updates on Kyle Busch as well we can talk about. So stay tuned for that, and stay tuned for much more amazing content. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Goodbye.